Okay, my friends, this is Roger once again, and I want to speak directly to Professor Hans Dieter Sues, who is with the Smithsonian, and he's a senior scientist and curator of fossil vertebrates in the Department of Paleobiology at Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History, and he's very well published. Now, I have become the source of unpublished new discoveries that are not being allowed to be published. So I'm talking directly to you, sir. You are in charge of making discoveries and investigating discoveries, and that's what I'd like you to do, sir. And I'm not out to assault anyone, but originally what happened is I got this about the devil's corkscrew, and these are literally sweat glands. They're not animal burrows. So that was the first thing. Now, we're going to go and see, how do paleontologists find fossils? I find them just everywhere, and I can show you where they are. And I'm going to show you something that was sent to me. Well, I discovered it. They're no-toes, and they're right here. Hold on. Oop. They're human-ish feet, and we have them in all kinds of degrees of degradation. And these were constructed inside. Instead of tendons, they have springs. Now, I also have new species. There's a process of fossilization. It's called mudfossilization, and this happened during the Great Flood. This is a turkey head or a goose head or some kind of head of a fowl. Now, that's the neck, where the neck was, right there. It died laying in a flood like this, flat on one side. Now, I also have human, and this is DNA certified. Any anatomist can look at that. Any first year, anybody that has any anatomical ability whatsoever, and I'm sure you do, sir. Now, this is the fabric. This black and red and white, and there's fibers in here. If you look at these in microscopes, it has the same identical fabric on this, the same identical fabric on that, the same identical fabric even on the goose's head. All fibers in life are made apparently of collagens and keratins and perigens and all these little fibers glued together, and it's what's called fascia, basically. Even though skin, anything that separates you from the rest of everything, has these fibers and that matrix built into it, and that's called fascia, and now they're also calling it interstitium. And I discovered that in 2012, and they just finally announced it in 2015. Yes, it is, and it's one of the biggest organ systems in the whole body because everything attaches to the interstitium. Now, we're going to go through some of the things that I have discovered and some of the things that have been presented to me that's not allowed. So I'm expecting you, sir, as a scientist, senior scientist. I expect you to confront my evidence, because I have evidence. I'm not just guessing. There's no guesses here. I have DNA certifications here. It's DNA certification of this lung and of giant human beings. That's right, giant human beings. You see this? There's a mud tip right here. Here it is right here. You know what it is? It's a human fingertip. It's a human fingertip, and it's been DNA certified. It's been CAT scanned. All the blood vessels are in here. Everything, the architecture where the tendons lock in, the apical tuft, everything is here. All of that fibers are built into here too, and interstitium balls are in here. And that is this right here, is this mud tip. The lung was here, and then a 36-inch tip, which is a fingertip 36 inches long. And here is the fingerprints. It's so well preserved, the fingerprints are still in it. That right there is grip skin from the fingerprints that came off. I had to break it off of here so we could get up inside and get the DNA out of some little blood vessels. basically they were up inside the fingertip. Now that's and here's the fingertip. That's the fingertip. You see that? It's like 24 inches wide and 36 inches long. That's the bone in the back that bumps up against the next bone. All right, and I think these are blood vessels. Now that's the fingernail, and I broke off a piece so that I could get down inside and get the fingerprints off of there, and also get the blood out of there. And that was DNA certified, and it's been looked at by. I mean, any human being looking at that can't miss it. You cannot miss that. You see that? That's the palm from that big fingertip I showed you. Put your hand out like this. You see the same thing. This is there's a red fleshy part, which is the bumper of your hand, and it runs down here, and there's a tendon runs out here. This is a left hand, and it's broken right off about here, and then the fingertips run out. I have a whole bunch of them, and I have parts from that. This is the grip skin that's on the palm of your hand. You see how it's all this silvery looking stuff here? That is real heavy, dense silicone in that grip skin. That's the, well, let me show you. All right, I mean, you cannot miss it. That is the grip skin. That's the sweat pores, and that's the grip skin. That's what it is. And that was off of that gigantic fingertip, and I have a bunch of other parts from that one too. So it's not something I don't have a lot of, and it's just laying out there. And this was 8 years ago I found them, and I have bones coming out of my earlobes. And they are all from these mud fossils. And then as I started to post stuff, people started sending me things that absolutely blew my mind. I mean, unbelievable stuff. Of all of these giant creatures and all of these oddball creatures that were from the past. And the reason I got involved with this professor was because he posted that the burrows, these sweat glands, there's little sweat tubes that come down, not into the grip skin, it's a little different, but in another area in the skin, there's these spiral little tubes that come down. He says, oh, they were made by rodents. No, they were not. They were made by creatures dying. Now, again, I don't mean to be confrontational or anything, but I have never heard once from any single geologist or anyone in academia when I have sent these things. And I am just going to have to continue to inquire until I get a response. Now, that's a membrane. That's a membrane. And that's the lower part of the membrane right here. It's the lower part. Then there's a screwy, fatty layer, 6 feet thick. And then there's another layer just like this above, up on the wall. And you can see very, 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 very obvious. And the interstitium balls are underneath this layer. That's what keeps all of this stuff stable. Now, that is the ion channels, the protein channels that allow things in and out of membranes. This separates everything that from everything that side. Now, this is these little coils. You see that? There's one right there. One right there. This is not something that's a guesswork. There's no guesses here. And you can actually get this stuff tested, you know, chemically to show that it's in the... I had all my stuff checked out extremely well. And, you know, DNA and everything else. So all my stuff is factually valid. This is just way beyond the scale of anything that I have. But it's all over the earth. And until we start to look at this for its reality, if you can't, as a scientist, open your eyes to what you see and not run away from it, then really there's no science. Science is looking at what is unrecognized, unknown, unnoticed, like this thick membrane right here. These are huge creatures. They run 1,000 miles long. I am sorry, that is the nature of the earth that we live on. And it was written that there was titans and giants. And there's no question that is a fact. I'm sorry. I don't want to be confrontational. I just want the truth to be discussed. If it turns out to be that I'm just crazy, then I'm crazy. Then we can move on. But until you can prove I'm crazy, I say you're the ones that are crazy for not allowing your mind to open to the reality of what stands right in your face. Okay, my friends, this is the no-toes, and before I get into this, I want to just say something. I've been just getting assaulted lately by people saying, oh, you keep showing the same things over and over. You keep showing your DNA reports, your lungs, your giant this, your big toes, and all that. Well, guess what? I'm going to show them forever until somebody acknowledges and responds, like the Smithsonian. And I'm going to keep doing this day after day after day until I get somebody from academia, and specifically the Smithsonian. We pay part of their budget, like 62%, you know, our tax money funds. I expect some truth. Anyway, these are the mud fossils, and these are the no-toes, and this is how they erode. And when they erode inside, they have these springs, and that's the calcaneal bone right there, and that's the tendon that runs up to the leg bone. See it? There's a calcaneus right here, and there's the tendon that runs up. That's strap. It's what it is. So it's time to take this a little more serious. This is our actual history. To just avoid this and gloss over it and talk about beaver dens and so forth, and they say these are clams or something. You see that? That's the heel bone. That's the strap that runs up to a bone that sits in that saddle there. It comes down, something along the lines of, I guess, like this, something like this, sits in that saddle coming down a bone. And then these are the springs. Instead of springs like this, we have tendons that run down straps that are under tension. These are under tension because they're springs. When they step on the toes, this comes up, which means this rocks this way. You see this? It's attached to a strap that runs around to another strap up here, and as that twists this way, it pulls this. This goes under tension because it's got a space to fill here. It goes under tension. That's under tension. This bumper and that bumper keep it from slamming into it. Boom, boom, comes back down, it lays down. This has another one of these tabs over here. I don't know what that's doing. There's all kinds of structural things going on in here, and they just dismiss this. We have the whole leg from one of these. Tisha Egerton found literally a village of these. I have a whole batch of them too. Everybody else, they're all over the place. This one here is like a whole leg. And now here's the front part, which I showed before, which has the springs and the springs. Then the heel is back here. This is a little more, like this is almost like a plate bolted on there with all of these little springs. I don't know what to say. This is the same kind of material we find in tendons. It's calcium carbonates. And then you have the red fleshy, muscly sort of fiber, you know, the flesh, red. Two different types of materials. And that's a foot. I don't care what anybody says. These are feet. That's not clams. No, it's so convenient to just say, oh, it's just this, oh, it's just that. Well, let me tell you, it's not, oh, it's just this, oh, it's just that. This is one of Tisha's feet, and these are the ones that have all these little springs on the side and so forth. And underneath the bottom, you see that? I believe they bolt a pad up. Here's mine right here, and I believe it bolts right up there. Now, mine, when they're full, they're huge. These things come down like that. They don't have just an arch in them. And hers, you see the arch, but originally that would have been like this. And that's the exact same spot mine is in here as hers. Now, it's too convenient just to dismiss this and walk away from it. This looks to me like somebody built these. Now, they have machines and things that can look at these now. I had a bunch of CAT scans done. Jesse Garant and Associates did 7 CAT scans for us. And they were all looked at by anatomists, and they were all verified as being the things that we said they were. Hands and fingers and toes and all kinds of things. Lung and all that. Now, it's time to look at this as our true history. If you can't look at it in reality, then we got an issue. That's where the issue lies right at this moment, is a refusal to accept reality. Okay, so as you have seen, we have incredible things. We have lost worlds because they are not allowed to be investigated. This is what I propose. We need online classes. I am not going to do it. So somebody's got to step up. I don't care if you charge money or take contributions or whatever, but we need some kind of, or if it can be done for free, that's what I prefer. Because I don't want any money. For me, all I'm going to do is assist as a research participant. And then somebody else is going to do everything else. And then I will chime in on all the different discussions and give my evidence, and everybody else will give their evidence. And whoever's got the best evidence, we'll figure that out. Now, all topics have to be discussed. I mean, physics, space, heat, light, energy, our history, giants, dragons, monsters, every single thing, 100%. But I want it student-led with some form of, we can't have this business that there's no space station and all that stuff. That's not going to float here. This is material-based reality stuff. Now, we need like a Mudfossil movie. Really, that would be the best thing. And Roger Dunnigan was going to do a movie and a documentary, and that it never happened. That was years ago. And if somebody else wants to step forward, or Roger, if you're still around, buddy, and you want to do it, by now it's got to be starting to be accepted. Back then, I was just an idiot of idiots, and so most people still consider it that way. But this is now history, and it has evidence, and we know there was gods and there was monsters, and I have them. And I can show them to you. Absolutely 100%, no question whatsoever now, because they have taken the time to understand that the DNA still exists. The anatomy is there that cannot be denied. The chemistry is not deniable. The process, I've already done it myself and created my own mud fossils using the same exact process of a saltwater flood for a long duration of time, seeping in, stabilizing what the matter was, and then cleaned off with the fresh water and then dried out. It makes mud fossils, just like this goose. That's the feathers on a goose's head. And I've shown all this stuff over and over and over. So there's no question now, and it's time to avoid nothing. All right, we have DNA, we have specimens, we have material facts, and they must be allowed. Now, Roger, R-O-G-E-R, at mudfossils.com. Somebody should contact me, and I expect the professor from Smithsonian absolutely should contact me, but I expected that right along with literally hundreds now, and none have responded in a positive way. Some have responded saying, you're just an idiot, that type of thing, or whatever, why don't you go to school, or you need to do some research, or all kinds of. I've had a lot of nasty responses, but I have not had one single question, not a single question. I'm presenting very, very serious material evidence. All right, so this is, somebody's going to have to do a movie or something. We've got it, because that seems to be the only thing that stirs people to action, is some kind of, I don't know. I really don't know anymore. People just don't seem to have an interest in reality. That's what I'm finding. I love you.